Hi friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I'm Em and welcome to my November wrap up. I've taught 3 classes today. I need to film a couple videos. We're just gonna energize and get through it. Not get through it. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so sorry. It's the wrong energy to bring to this situation. Anyways, here are my stats for the month. If you are a person who cares about stats, my stats are off by 1 book, and I'll explain why when I get to it. But this is going to say 17. I have actually read 18 books this month, and you get a little spoiler for what my highest rated books of the month were, though maybe not necessarily my favorites. I think I rated more on skill than on enjoyment this month. Let's go ahead and dive in. Let's do the ones that I don't have physically, as we always do, because I am more likely to forget that I have not talked about them yet since I don't have them physically here to bug me. First up, I read The Serviceberry by Robin Wall Kimmerer. This is a long essay that I think was in a magazine or something and then has just recently been published, and it's about changing our mindset and our society and our culture to one of abundance rather than scarcity. This is an idea I've really been kind of diving into this year, and I really love it. And I love that Robin Wall Kimmerer approaches it from a nature perspective, from a community perspective, on how we support each other and take care of each other, because it's very clear that our government is not going to do it, so we can only rely on each other. And I thought it was really well done. I'm even more interested in reading Braiding Sweetgrass after having read this essay. Next, I read Slewfoot by Brahm. And if you watched my video where I read this, if you watched the vlog, I gave it a 3 in that vlog. I have since lowered it to a 2.5. I did not have a good time. I really liked the beginning. I really like our main character, Abatha. She is in her early 20s, and this is set in Puritan times, and she is from England. Her father basically sold her in marriage to this Puritan man who lived in the Americas, and so Abatha had to make this journey across the Atlantic Ocean to arrive in this puritanical village, and luckily her husband is very sweet and soft-spoken and very doting on Abatha, but he has a bastard of a brother who is determined to take everything he can from his brother. And sadly, Abatha's husband dies, and Abatha is left even more vulnerable, and she ends up making a bargain with this goat man named Samson to get the farm in working order so that she is not forced into indentured servitude for the rest of her life. And like I said, I really liked Abatha as a character. I did quite enjoy the beginning of the book as we're seeing her and Edward together and what their marriage is like, and then Edward dying, and then everything that comes after it. I found the ending really disappointing. It was not the revenge path I wanted, nor I felt Abatha deserved. I wanted Abatha to have justice in a different form. I wanted these Puritans to be shown the error of their ways, not to be validated in their bigotry and small-mindedness. So I just felt like it was really disappointing. The epilogue is totally useless and really kind of cuts the ending out from underneath itself, and I just was not it was a hard sell to begin with, because that is a time period I really do go out of my way to not read, because I know no woman is going to be having a good time in this. But I was seduced by the rave reviews on BookTube, and I really wanted to read it and see for myself what I thought, and I just need to remember to trust my gut on what books are going to be good for me and which ones I can just say, no, that's not for me. I also stepped a little out of my comfort zone this month, and I read a thriller, which is not my go-to genre. I don't really care for thrillers for a variety of reasons, but I did pick up Julie Chan is Dead by Lian Zhang, and even though I'm not a thriller reader, I gave this 4 stars. Oh gosh, can I remember what I thought about this? Honestly, I remember the setup, but I cannot remember how this book ended to save my life. But this is about Julie Chan, who is a twin, and she and her twin were separated when they were really young after their parents died. Julie was taken in by her abusive aunt and her twin Chloe was adopted by this wealthy white couple, and they haven't really spoken since. And then one night, Julie gets a really weird phone call from Chloe, and she goes to her apartment and Chloe is dead. And Julie, in a moment of panic, takes her sister's identity as her own. And Chloe was a really well-known social media influencer, and so Julie is kind of thrust into influencer culture, and I really liked the critique of influencer culture, of these big hauls and getting all this free stuff that you don't really even use half of it. And like, I really liked the commentary on all of that. I just, I struggle with thrillers because I feel like you never get to see that character, the main character, just as who they are. I feel like they're in crisis the whole book. And I have a hard time rooting for somebody who's just in crisis the whole time. I would like just like a little bit to get to know them first before everything goes to hell in a handbasket. I also felt like Julie was really hard not to root for, but I just felt like she had a lot of meltdowns instead of like getting up and doing something, and I really wanted her to get up and do something, and it took a really long time to get to that. But I felt like it was well written, it was really easy to read, and I don't know if I will read another book by her because I'm just going to assume she's going to write thrillers again, and as previously discussed, it's not really my thing. But I can acknowledge that this is a really good thriller, and I think if you like thrillers and you haven't read this yet, it is definitely worth your time to pick it up. It's just not for me. I think that is it. So I think the rest of the things I read are physical books. So we'll just start with this stack and dive in. All right, so this is the reason why I've actually read 18 books is I got this, what are these called? A double bind up, I guess. Anyways, Saga Press has started doing these double bind ups. They so kindly sent me a finished copy of this one, and I read Red Star Hustle by Sam J. Miller this month, but I haven't read the other one yet, and on Storygraph, as far as I know, it's just listed as one book, and I don't know how to mark. I haven't taken the time to figure out how to mark them as two separate books, so for right now, I've only read half of it. But this is a science fiction novella, and this is my first book by Sam J. Miller, and I really liked it. I don't remember what I rated it. I think it's probably in the 4-star range, but this is about a sex worker who is framed for murdering this contentious filmmaker, and then also the bounty hunter who is supposed to bring him in, and it has a lot of political intrigue. It's very queer. It was very fun, and I had a good time reading it. I don't have a whole lot to say though, but I liked it. I also finally read The Mutant Sitters Club by S.J. Whitby. Took this off of, this is like a TBR veteran. I've had this book for so long. There is a YA/new adult series called The Cute Mutants, where all these kids have gotten these mutant powers, but they're all like lame mutant powers. It's not like X-Men powers. And then this is set in the same world after the events of the original series, but for a younger audience. Like, this is more middle grade or young YA. Our main character, Effie, I think is 14, and they are babysitting children, mutants, in the town that they live in, and then 2 of those children are kidnapped while they and their friends are babysitting them, and then they go to rescue them. I accidentally did spoil a bunch of stuff in the Cute Mutant series because I haven't finished it yet, and I didn't realize that this would contain so many spoilers. I didn't realize that this was set after, and so I did spoil a bunch for myself, but I thought this was a really lovely middle grade. I gave it 3 stars. I'm not as big of a middle grade reader as I used to, which I'm slowly coming to terms with, but this was easy to read, very sweet. I loved all the themes. I thought the relationships were well done, and I would definitely put this in the hands of any 13, 14-year-old, maybe 12-year-old who like wants a book with some really like great queer representation. I did carry over a couple of spookier reads into the month, so that's what the next 3 are going to be. I read Tastes Like Candy by Jessica Lacey. This is a YA slasher, or just an adult slasher. I don't know. They're in high school. It's gross. Anyways, it's about this girl, Violet, and her friends who go to this amusement park after hours to participate in this ritual at their high school called the Senior Scavenge, where it's like the top girl, like incoming senior girls are invited, and it's very elite to get invited. But then they go and they start getting murdered, and the murders are grisly and gruesome, and I thought this was really fun. Very gross, very fast-paced. I did not predict who the killer was, but I did not like the reasons the killer had for doing what they did. And I just felt like it was the stupidest reason. So that was rough. That was rough. I do think this is also a little too long. A little too long. It dragged a little bit. I'm on the fence on whether or not I want to read the sequel because there is another book in this series. And I feel like slasher series are rough because I just wish that final girl had gone to therapy, and they never do. They never go to therapy. So, yeah, I feel like I didn't really have a good time this month now that I'm looking back at what I read. It makes me sad. Okay, so moving on. A middle grade book that I actually really liked is The Last Resort by Erin Intradet Kelly. This is about a girl named Lila. Maybe? Yeah, Lila, who is kind of being ghosted by her two best friends for being too much, too extra, too over the top. And her grandfather dies, and so she and her family go to another state in order to settle his effects. And he lived in this big bed and breakfast, and it turns out it's haunted. And so Lila and her brother and a new friend endeavor to find out why. Why are those ghosts there? What are they doing? What do they need? What's going on? And I really liked this. I thought the ghost was well done. It was creepy, but not too scary. I loved the friendship. I loved Lila kind of coming into her own and realizing that her too muchness is actually really good, and that the people that matter will love her for who she is, not in spite of who she is. And I really, really liked that part of it. This book is also interactive. Like, there's a QR code that you can scan and like see the ghosts. I didn't really explore that option, but I think it's interesting, maybe. Maybe a clever way to help kids engage more with a book. Though if I'm being honest, especially as a parent, the last thing I want to do when I buy my kids a book is then give them my phone so that they can look at stuff. But I bought them the book. Like, I bought them this so that they would do this instead of it on the device. But I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. Am I cranky today? Is that the problem? I didn't feel cranky when I sat down, but now I wonder if I'm kind of cranky. And then I finally, after so many of you left such positive comments about this book, I picked up A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Madana. I have this from Aardvark Book Club. I am also a rep for Aardvark Book Club, so I have a code down in my description box. If you ever want to try them out, you can get your first box for $4 and free shipping. And I really liked this. I had seen this get kind of mixed views or reviews on BookTube, and so I was a little nervous to try it, but I ended up really loving it. I gave it 4.25 stars. I thought the story in here was really lovely. Sangu Madana does such a great found family. We have a woman named Sarah who was a really powerful witch as a child, and then through a spell loses a lot of her magic, and you get to just watch her, I don't know, learn how to love herself without magic. And the romance in here is really lovely, and I was just a big fan. If you're looking for just like a cozy, sweet, supportive, caring time, like, there are high stakes for the characters in this book, but it is not a stressful read by any means. I just absolutely love Sangu Madana's writing and her characters, and I thought this was really lovely. All right, next. Okay, all right, here's a book that I did love. Let me double check. I feel like I gave it 5 stars, but I maybe didn't, so let me double check. Not quite 5. I gave 4.5 stars. I finally read To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Monicule Blackgoose, and this is about a girl named Anaquis who lives in this village. Her people are indigenous to this landmass, which is basically like our world. Like, I'll show you the map. Like, this is our planet, just with different names. And so she lives in northern or on the eastern coast of like the United States. And her people are indigenous to the area, and of course it has been colonized. And she finds a dragon egg and hatches this dragon and has to go to the colonizer run Dragon Academy. And I loved this so much. It was so good. The writing was excellent. Anakus is such a cool character to root for, and watching her just navigate the space and her relationship with her dragon and all the stupid racism and prejudice she has to come up against, but she just is unfailing in her ability to push back. I love the ending. I'm so excited for book 2 to come out in January and see what comes next. I think if you have not read this and you like dragons and you like school stories, this is great because you do see Anakus at school and going to class and having to complete her assignments. I thought her friend group that she meets at her school was so lovely. Like, truly some of my favorite characters are her friends in this book, and it was so good. This was also a TBR veteran. I've had this one on my shelf for a really long time. And then I read a series of new releases. Let's talk about those next. I read like 4 new releases this month. I mean, how new is new release? Like books that came out in October and November. I read A House of Idol by Delilah S. Dawson. This is her newest horror novella. And this is about a woman named Angelina, who is a struggling singer-songwriter living in LA, and she quickly loses her job and gets evicted from her housing in quick succession, and then is approached by the members of this rock band that she idolized in high school and offered a place in this like artist commune out in the wilderness, and things are real sketchy from the get-go. I feel like Delilah S. Dawson does a really good job of putting her characters in situations where you can see the red flags a mile away and are yelling at the book for the main character to figure it out, and then they are just like blissfully off doing their own thing. There was a lot of tension and creeping dread in this book. This is not as unhinged as Bloom or Guillotine, so I would say if you read those and you liked how unhinged she went, that's not what this is. This one felt fairly tame in comparison, and I was pretty disappointed by the ending. I think I ended up giving it 3 stars, maybe 3.25. I'm still going to read her. I still like her writing. I like her themes. I like what she has to say. I just didn't quite care for the execution of this one, and I had some questions at the end of things that happened that didn't get answered or resolved. And I would have liked maybe another like 25 to 30 pages just to get everything figured out. Delilah S. Dawson, I'm still going to read her. So it just wasn't my favorite compared to the other 2. I haven't read very much of her backlist though, so I should probably do that. New release that did work for me is A Mouthful of Dust by Nevo. This is book 6 in the Singing Hills cycle. Yeah, it's book 6. And this is about Cleric Chi, who is a wandering monk, and they collect stories, and they have gone to this village where this famine occurred and are gathering stories about what happened during the famine. Nevo's been leaning into some horror elements in the last 2 installments in the series, and I really dig it. I like them so much. I think I gave this, did I say what I rated this? I think I gave it a 4 or 4.25. Or 4.5. I don't know. I really liked it. My only complaint is they're too short. They're too short. They're over so quickly, and I just would like more time with Cleric Chi and Almost Brilliant. Hazel Thorne by C.G. Drews. This is the author of Don't Let the Forest In, which I read earlier this year and loved. And I also really liked Hazel Thorne. I gave this, I think, a 4.5. I had big Secret Garden vibes while I was reading this that I really loved. Our main character, Evander, has lived like a ghost in this house for years. And then one day his guardian suddenly dies, and Evander inherits everything, and the relatives descend to claim guardianship over Evander and thus control of the estate and the wealth that Evander now has. And also there's a boy who is Evander's like mortal enemy, but maybe they also have feelings for each other. It was so good. I love C.G. Drew's relationships, like the romantic relationships between the boys in both of their books so far, is just so delightful and it makes me so happy. I love how wrought these books are with just everything these boys are going through. There's a lot of angst, there's a lot of emotions, there's a lot of unease with your body and what you're growing into, and it's all stuff that teenage Emily could have related to so hard. And I love reading these as an adult and maybe not being in that spot anymore, but remembering what it was like so well. And C.G. Drew's books just feel so healing for baby Emily, and I really love them for that. And then I read Kylie Lee Baker's newest book. This is a romance fantasy called I'll Find You Where the Timeline Ends, about the descendant of a Japanese dragon god who can time travel, and she meets this boy and finds out that maybe all the things she thought to be true weren't maybe actually true. The back of the book is going to tell you that she is looking for her sister, who she knows exists but doesn't exist in this timeline, and that is such a small part of the plot. So I ended up being kind of disappointed by the ending because I felt like I love a sister story so much, and we really didn't focus on the sister. The focus is the romance between these two kids, these two descendants of Japanese dragon gods. So come for the romance, maybe not for the sister story. But this is very cozy, sweet, hopeful. Not my favorite. I just don't like time travel, guys. I don't know what to tell you. It's just not my thing. Love it for everybody else, but yeah, it's just not my jam. All right, and then the last newish release that I read is Kill the Beast by Sarah Swift, and this definitely lived up to the hype. Thank goodness. This is about Lissa, whose brother was murdered when she was a child by this beast, and she is on a revenge plot to bring the beast down, and she meets this man named Aldrich who wants to pay her to kill the beast. And so I did go into this with slightly incorrect expectations. I thought this was going to be a journey to killing the beast, but so much of the book is just them gathering the ingredients they need for the spells to be able to kill the beast. But just watching their friendship grow and bloom. There's no romance in this, which I found really lovely and refreshing. So it's really just like this platonic love and friendship, which I feel like we don't get enough in fantasy especially. And I just love their characters. I love the dynamics. I love Lissa. If you love like kind of like a Gideon the Ninth character where they're guarded, they're really sarcastic, they're hard to get to know, they try so hard to make it hard for people to love them, but they are also just absolutely wonderful. Like, it's that kind of character. And I'm really a sucker for that. So I really loved this, and I thought this is a really great debut. I'm excited to read more from Sarah Swift, and I'm so glad that this lived up to the hype because I have been hyping this book up to myself since it came out. Oh, I did have Julie Chan is Dead. Just kidding. There it is. Okay, let's do some more nonfiction, and then we'll talk about my last book. I think that's the last book. Oh, there's one more I don't have a physical copy of. Okay, but it's nonfiction, so let's just do some nonfiction. I listened to Awake by oh man, I can do it. By Jen Hatmaker. This is a memoir. Jen Hatmaker is pretty well known in Christian women circles. She writes a lot of Bible study books for women, but this is her memoir about the night she found out her husband was having an affair and what the unraveling of her marriage looked like, and then how she built herself back up again, I guess. And I really loved it. I think Jen Hatmaker is really funny and her humor comes across in her book. I listened to it on audio and I really recommend it. I think the audiobook experience is a heightened experience from just reading it. She includes some stuff in an audio format that isn't included if you just read the physical book. And yeah, I think if you have experienced Jen Hatmaker in the world, I really recommend it. I think it's a great memoir, and I really loved listening to her tell her story. And then I read Why I Love Horror. This is essays on horror literature. This is edited by Becky Siegel Spratford and has essays from people like Haley Piper, Tarana Reeve-Dew, Josh Mallerman, Paul Tremblay, Grady Hendrix, Stephen Graham Jones. You get the idea. And each individual essay is about why these authors are drawn to horror as a genre to read and as a genre to write. And I thought overall it's like a 4-star essay experience. Not every essay hit, but there are some really great essays in here. And then I moved on to Against Techno-Ableism by Ashley Shue. And this is a short but really impactful little book about the technology that we have available for disabled people to use and how disabled people need to be consulted when technology that is supposed to be for them is being developed, because currently a lot of people in decision-making positions about what disabled people need aren't actually disabled themselves, and so they don't actually really know what people in that community need, and it's really important to let people in that community make decisions for that community. Really great, really well done, well structured, perfect for me mix of personal anecdotes with facts and history. And I highly recommend it if you want to be a little bit more educated about what it's like to exist in the world with a disability, what technologies exist for disabled people. I particularly loved the last chapter because it was talking about the future of disability, and Ashley Shue, I've heard this before, but Ashley Shue really centered that chapter around the idea that because of how aging works, everybody who lives long enough to age is eventually going to become disabled in some way. It is inevitable. And so, like, we should care more about services and technology and how accessible the world is for disabled people, because no matter how able-bodied you may be, eventually you are going to be disabled as well. And I really like that. I really like that mindset. It's a good mindset shift for me. And then the final book we're going to talk about is The Reformatory by Tarana Reeve-Dew. Y'all, I finally did it. I've been so scared to read this book since it came out. I really wanted to because I love the cover. I've heard great things about Tarana Reeve-Dew, but the premise had me so scared. So this is about a young boy named Robbie who's Black and lives in Florida in the 1950s, and he kicks a white man and is sent to this reformatory that is based on the Dozier School for Boys. That was a real place in Florida. If you've read The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead, it's the same school. Also, his sister Gloria, who is 16 and is trying to get Robbie out of this school. And so we alternate between Robbie's perspective and Gloria's perspective. And there are ghosts at this school that Robbie is sent to, and Robbie can see the ghosts. Though, of course, as I'm sure you can imagine, the horror in this book does not come from the ghosts themselves. It comes from the very evil people who run the school and perpetuate violence against these boys, some very young boys. And it was so well written, just absolutely fantastic. Highly recommend the audiobook. I really loved the audio experience. And I get it. I'm on the Tarana Reeve-Dew hype train. If you're like me and you were nervous about picking this up, because I was definitely sick to my stomach quite a bit while reading this, and again, not because of the ghosts, but because of, you know, the very real things that white people have done to Black people throughout American history. But I feel like Tarana Reeve-Dew does a good job of not bombarding you with it and giving you time to like get your equilibrium back. And her writing is just so compelling that even though I was sick to my stomach and pretty stressed out, I really cared about Robbie and Gloria, and I needed to know that they were going to be okay and had to keep reading. It is a chunker, so it is a time investment, and definitely not a book that I think you can binge, but I really liked it. I think this is truly a masterpiece, and I'm so glad I finally got around to it. Okay, I think we did it. I think that's it. It's all... What did I say? 18 things that I read in November. It was, I guess, kind of a mixed reading month now that I've talked about everything. Hater tendencies aside, I would still probably recommend each of these books, because I think while there were books that I definitely didn't jive with, I'm looking at you, Slewfoot, I can see how I can see a reader for each of these books, even if maybe it wasn't particularly my favorite. So if you'd like to leave me a comment and you want to tell me if you've read any of these, what your thoughts are, if you want to let me know what your favorite book you read in November was, I would love to hear it. And if you just want to leave me an emoji to let me know you were here, let's do a house emoji for the reformatory. I don't think I've done a house emoji lately. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll talk to y'all in the next one. Bye!